The other day, I was working on my laptop, just like this, when suddenly it hit me that I've been alone in this room the whole week and I'm okay. So obviously I had to call a meeting because this is a big deal. Right? How cool is it? Come such a long way. We're going to gym, running all kinds of distances and all kinds of dodgy places by ourselves. Honestly, like now we're even doing solo travels to other people's countries and enjoying it. Like, wow, the growth. The growth.
It's really something because I remember not being able to go to sleep alone unless I turned the lights on.
What? No, for real. It was only at the big age of 25 that we finally overcame the fear of sleeping alone in the dark. Yeah. This was going so well. I was kind of hoping that we're gonna get to the end of this without anybody bringing up something embarrassing. You just had to, you couldn't help yourself, could you? Hi, we've come a very long way. Serious matter. Anyway, being at this point in my life where I fully and truly enjoy my own company is such a big deal for me. But to really appreciate how far I've come, I need to go back to the beginning. I was 2 years old when my sister was born, so any sense of personal space, privacy that I enjoyed before she came here disappeared as soon as she came. And then she wonders why I wasn't a big fan of hers when she first arrived. 3 years later, my younger brother is born, and like any other African household, there's a constant flow of cousins and people in and out of the house. It's not like we had a big house, and so we were always sharing space. At 10 years old, I left that environment and went to boarding school. In boarding school, I shared a dormitory with at least 20 girls on bunk beds, you know, and every single minute of your day is planned, and there was no personal time. There was no time to go sit alone and reflect. There was no such thing. And the only place you could really go for privacy and alone time where no one would disturb you was the chapel, because nobody will come disturb you. They'll assume you're praying. We always had group activities. We showered together. Like, there are people who have issues being naked with other women around, and I'm like, you should have gone to boarding school. It would have cured you of all of that immediately. Because we would just be here and there weren't enough stalls that you can say I'll take my bucket inside a stall and, you know, close it and have my privacy when I shower. No, there were like 10 stalls. I'm even exaggerating, probably like 5 or 7 stalls. And so we just put our buckets, you know, on the floor and just showered there with everybody's business hanging out, you know. So no, a long time. And then I left Cameroon after secondary school and went to South Africa to study. And when I got here, I lived with my uncle and his wife and kid. I lived with him for a while, and then I left him for a brief moment. I lived on campus by myself because we ran into some issues and couldn't stay together anymore. So now I'm living in Res by myself, and that was my first taste, my first real taste of being alone. But I was 18 in a new country, didn't know anybody. I was severely depressed, so it just compounded my dislike for being by myself, right? Because that was my first experience of it. I was timid, I was shy, I didn't really know how to go and make friends. Believe it or not, I'm still a very timid person. Don't mind as I'm here by the camera doing all of these things. And when I'm comfortable with you, I will talk. If I have to give a presentation, I will stand in front of a large group of people and deliver what I have to deliver. But on one-on-one like this, in a new space, I don't know what to do. I wouldn't be able to make friends. It was very difficult, and it's still very difficult. It's just gotten easier with time. That was a very dark, very depressive time. Like, I would sleep for almost 12 hours at a time and just wake up and hate being alive. Hate being alive, for real. But anyway, after my time on campus living in Res, I started living with my friends, right? And I lived with, this was now 2012, I lived with my friends all the way till this 2017, when I had a massive mental breakdown. Like, I was going through it. I was fighting with myself inside my brain, and I was losing. Like, what a dark time 2017 was. What a dark time. But I knew at that time, because I was sharing a small room with 2 other people. So we're 3 grown women living in a room. I don't mean a room with a separate bathroom, lounge. No, it was a room. And we shared the toilet and kitchen with all the other people that lived in the house. So it was not a conducive environment for me to sort out what was happening in my brain. So that July of 2017, when my scholarship, because I was doing my master's on a scholarship at the time, when my scholarship money hit my account, that very same day, I found a place and I paid it and I went. It was this tiny shoebox of an apartment. It was an apartment. It was, again, another room in a big shared house. but it was small, it was a tiny shoebox. And just to tell you how bad this place was, there was a friend of mine who she needed a place to hang out for a bit, right, while waiting for her next appointment. And I told her, she asked me if she could come chill by me until that time. I said, sure, I'm home, you can come and chill.
Hi!
Hey, you're welcome. Good to see you.
We're obviously not the same person or anything like that.
Of course, you have glasses and everything.
Yeah, and the different outfits and stuff. But anyway, thank you so much for letting me crash here while I wait for my friend.
It's not a problem at all. Come, I'll take you upstairs.
Oh, you're the best.
And then this girl walks up the stairs. She looks around, and then she looks me dead in the eyes and says,
So, like, do you live here?
it would be kind of awkward if I didn't live here, no?
I mean, I guess, but like, oh my god, it's so touchy.
Mind you, I live here. But as crazy as it was, as dodgy as it was mine. It was mine for the first time. I had a space that was entirely my own. I was paying for it. And when I was there, I realized for the first time that nobody knows where I am. When I'm coming, when I'm going, who I saw, what I ate. All these details were just mine and mine alone because I was living alone. And it was just the most liberating thing I ever did. Not at first. At first it was hard. At first it was scary, and I struggle to sleep when there are no other people in the room because I've always slept with people, right? That was the beginning of my journey into solitude, the beginning of my journey into just spending time by myself, right? And now I'm going to talk about some of the 4 lessons that I have learned since that time, and especially in this time that I'm spending more time by myself because of the things I'm working on. So let's get to those points.
That's me checking that we are actually recording because I
Okay.
would literally cry if I had to redo all of that. Okay. And how come I thought we are friends and nobody told me that the color of my dress is inside on the one side and outside on the other side? People don't want me to maintain steez on this YouTube street. You don't want me to elevate my steez. Also, why am I so serious trying to set up this shot? Please. But let's get back to the conversation, I beg.
So, as human beings, we tend to equate solitude or time alone to loneliness. Loneliness has a bunch of negative consequences, right? And we are social beings. I feel like we've evolved that fear of being alone because without other people, we literally cannot survive. But what if the time spent alone, what if solitude was just as important? Not loneliness, but solitude, time intentionally spent alone, was just as important as the time that we spent interacting with other people. When I moved into that apartment, I started learning very early some of the advantages of spending time by myself. The very first one was that I could hear myself think for the first time, right? And I could also hear other people's voices in my head. When I was together with people and we were all just in the same space talking about things, planning things together, there was never enough time for me to just be with myself and just hear myself think. Like, I'll have a couple of hours a day, but a couple of hours a day is not enough. You need like extended periods of time by yourself, especially when you're going through the kind of crisis I was going through, like a deep emotional, mental crisis as I was going through at the time. I didn't just need a couple of hours, I needed a couple of days, months, even years of solitude. Not spending it all by myself, but having a big chunk of time that I spend with myself. I had started journaling before I moved to that place, and already I had started noticing that, hey, there's some things that I like because my friends like. I don't like them because I like them, right? But in this apartment, it became even more amplified. Let me give you a quick example. When I moved into this place, I one day felt really good. Then I was like, okay, I want to play some music and I want to dance and whatever. So I play some music and I start dancing. I'm here. I'm here. But it's not giving. It's not giving what I wanted to give, right? You know how they say dance like nobody's watching? Nobody was watching me, but I was dancing like everybody was watching me. I was dancing like there was an audience standing there judging my every move, and I couldn't really be free and express myself the way I wanted to. And then I was like, but wait, oh, there's nobody in this room. Nobody can see me. there's nobody in this room. Nobody can see me. Nobody is here. So why exactly am I not able to just why can't I just release like that? Why can't I just let myself go? And then I realized that the worst thing that happens when you spend too much time with people and not enough time by yourself is that you start to internalize what you think other people are thinking about you. Not what other people think necessarily, because we don't always know what people are thinking, right? But we have ideas of what the common judgments for different kinds of actions, behaviors, and things would be, and we internalize those voices, we internalize those judgments to the point where we are not able to live our lives freely, even when there is nobody holding us back, even when there is no one in the room judging us. We are now responsible for judging ourselves and holding ourselves back. That was the first big lesson that I learned from moving into that place by myself, that I could finally just hear myself think. And I could also hear what were mine and what were other people's ideas that had now come and, merged inside there. And I just was just a confused person. So that was the first lesson. The second point that I've learned in all the time since 2017, that I've really grown fond of myself and fond of my own company, but even more especially now as I'm busy with my content creation journey, my music journey, and while doing the research and doing all of those kinds of things, I'm definitely starting to realize that solitude is a very important ingredient for deeply aligned, deeply connected creativity. Let me use a story to explain this point. When I produced my first EP in 2021, it was a live project, which means that all the musicians came into the studio and played the guitar, played the drums, played the keyboard. Everything that you hear in that project is played live. Like, there was no computer generated music, right? And what that also meant was that there were always musicians in the room. So they were always giving their opinion. I would always ask, like, is this okay? Does this make sense? Can I do this? Because I am not technically trained in music. I somehow can generate melodies and lyrics to match a beat, but I am not technically trained. I don't know the different, when they start speaking music language here and they're like, it's F sharp and it's B this and it's C and it's that and it's that. I'm just like, yo, leave me out of it, because now you are speaking chemistry. It sounds like you are speaking to me in chemistry and I don't do chemistry. I depended a lot on their opinions because I thought that their technical knowledge was more important, more valuable, more legitimate than the knowledge that just existed inside me without any training, right? And even right down to the background vocals, I remember that I didn't do my background vocals. I invited two backup vocalists to come and do the backup vocals for me, and the whole time they were in the studio, they will come up with the melodies and I'll be like, oh, that sounds good. Oh, that sounds good. And, they would come up with melodies that I wouldn't necessarily come up with. And so I thought, oh, these people know something that I don't know. It was great. It worked out and everything was fine. But when I look at the difference between that project and this current project that I'm working on, it is night and day. For this one, I'm not doing live musicians. All the beats are already produced and I'm just writing on them and taking them to studio to record. Now, what that means is that I sit in my room on my computer by myself. I lay all my vocals on GarageBand. We've spoken about this in the previous video, and I think about it as if I'm in the studio, so that when I go to studio, I know exactly what I want to do. And I have been so impressed. I have been so impressed. Like, there's only one song that my producer was like, I don't really like how you've written this. Can you try this? And he gave me like hummed something, and then I used that to like expand one of the songs. But that's the only song. Every other song, and even in that song, all the harmonies that you hear are mine. All the little inflections here and there, little nyana things that I've put here to make it exciting, that's all coming from my head. And I'm just like, so I can do something like this by myself. And I feel deeply, deeply connected to this project because I know all the hours, I know all the tries, all the drafts that I had to write and rewrite by myself. And of course, it's not to say that all the creative ideas must come from me. No, I'm very open. When I go to the studio to record, I'm open to what the producer has to say, but already I have my original idea, and then I pick and choose which opinions I now want to include or leave out, as opposed to when I don't have anything at all, and then there's all these voices interfering with what I'm doing. And I mean, there's space for that kind of creative process, but I really needed for this project to understand, well, I didn't think about it like this in the beginning, but now I'm realizing that I needed to do this like this. I needed to do this on my own so that it would build my own confidence in my ability to do it alone, right? To generate all the harmonies and sing them well by myself without paying somebody else. That's saving me money. Once in another project, I will need different voices just to create a variety of voices in your ear as you listen, right? But now I know I can do it. I can lay my backup vocals and just call someone to come and sing what I did without them having to now be the ones to create something. So I've thought I've really loved that aspect in the creative space. Even now with content, I've spoken about decision making before and how I have to make so many decisions around content, around music, where to shoot, how to light it, what to wear, what my hair should look like, what's the topic, what are the points I want to discuss. It's a lot of things to consider, and I feel like in doing it by myself, in this way, I'm getting better at hearing myself. I'm getting better at trusting myself, especially when I do it and it comes back with positive feedback. Of course, I welcome constructive, negative feedback, but when it comes back positive, I'm like, oh, that was my idea. And it really, really does something to empower me, to make me feel confident in my own abilities. So yeah, so that's the second point about how I see solitude as fertile ground for deeply aligned, deeply connected creativity, because you are locked in your own space, you're in your mind, you're listening to yourself and you're working with yourself, as opposed to if there are other people in the room and now have to adapt and adjust myself to accommodate what they might need. You know, if I'm doing it alone in my room, I can do it naked if I want. I can do it upside down. I can do it anywhere I want. If there are other people in the room, I may not have that same freedom to just go out and do what I want to do. But doing it enough times on my own, I feel also builds me up for when I eventually meet people. I know how to communicate what I want. I know what I want to accept. I know what I don't want to accept, because I know what is me and what, is authentic to me. That's number two. Moving right along to number 3.
So while we wait for Good Sis to set up for the rest of the conversation over there, I want to find out something from you real quick. So I've learned that YouTube's algorithm cares about how many people watch my videos, but it also cares about how long they stay watching my videos. So I'm busy trying different things to keep you guys engaged. So the skits, the different angles, showing you a little bit of the behind the scenes, and so on and so forth. Is it working? Is that the reason why you stayed up until this point of the video? Or do you just really like me? Oh my God. Let me know in the comment section. Thank you. Lesson number 3. Let's get back to it.
Lesson number 3 is I have started to understand solitude as focused energy, not as the absence of company, not as me missing out on something that's happening out there that I would want to do, but I'm stuck at home alone and it's just terrible and it's just sad. I could look at it like that, right? And when I'm doing research, I definitely think like that, because I'm like, I could be out there, I could be on the beach, I could be on a yacht in Dubai with a thong shaking my behind.
It's time for me to shake my ass on a yacht. Oh, in Dubai, in a thong.
I couldn't be in Dubai, but I'll think it. I'm starting to see it as focused energy, and this perspective has grown really strong now because I have to spend a lot of time by myself, working on the content, working on music, doing the research. Yes, research, I'm employed by someone, but I meet my team like once a week. And sometimes we don't even meet. So most of the time I'm at home by myself working. When I go to studio, yes, the producer is there, but that's at the end of the process. All the work of writing the songs, of laying the vocals and everything happen at home alone, making the decisions for content that happens at home alone. So I'm spending a lot of time by myself because of these things that I'm doing, and I'm choosing to see that as me refocusing my energy towards the things that I want to achieve, towards the goals that I have set for myself. And I won't be able to do as much as I'm able to do if I'm also out there all the time, right? This is the season I'm in. These are the sacrifices I have to make, which means not as much socializing, not as much enjoyment out there. I do make time for it. If you know me, you know I make time for enjoyment and I don't be playing with it. But for the most part, I am focused here by myself. And this is related to the fourth point, which is really that they might even be the same point depending on how you look at it. But the way I see it, apart from the fact that I'm focusing my energy onto the things that I want to do, the amount of time I spend alone is also for me a testament of my commitment to these goals, right? If I'm spending all these hours to myself, it must mean that I really want it. I really want it. That's why I would rather be in here where it's not exciting, where it's boring, where I'm just grinding for hours on end. But the fact that I wake up and I do it every single day tells me that I am committed, truly, really committed to the goals that I've set in a way that I haven't been in the past. And you've probably already watched my video about obsessive dedication, right? And if you haven't, I'm gonna link it here so you can watch it. You can check out that video on obsessive dedication and how I'm trying to nurture that obsession in my life. And it's a good thing. If you watch the video, you understand why obsession in this situation, in this context, is positive and not negative, right? So that time I spend alone, the time I spend in solitude with myself, even if I'm not actively working, I'm just laying on the couch so that my brain doesn't scatter into 1 million different directions when I need to. It's very hard for me to switch from being outside to coming back and being productive. Once I leave the house and I do a bunch of activities out there, that day is gone. Nothing productive is going to happen unless there is a deadline on my ass, right? But other than that, I will be unable to continue what I'm doing. So I'd rather just sacrifice that and be at home, work on my thing until, you know, I'm happy, then I can go out. Then essentially that point is that spending time alone, solitude, spending time by myself is not the absence of company. It's not me missing out on something. I do feel like I'm missing out on something when I'm working on research though. Where's academia? Yeah.
Yeah, they like to act like all I do is stress them out, drain their energy. But how would they be able to afford anything if not for me?
I have to dedicate time to it, and now I'll still be unhappy doing it, but I know why I'm doing it and how it feeds into the entire system that I have going on here. So let's just reiterate the 4 lessons that I have learned about solitude in my young 33 years is, first of all, you need time alone to just hear yourself think, separate what's you from what's other people, what you've internalized and what needs to go. The second thing is that solitude is the perfect ground, fertile ground for deeply aligned and connected creativity. The third one is seeing solitude as focused energy, not as missing out on something, not as the absence of company, but the time I focus my energy on the things that I want to do. And the last one is that, related to the third, is that the amount of time I spend by myself is also how I measure my commitment to those goals. The more time I spend by myself and working on my things, then the more I know I am committed to them. Because before, I wouldn't be able to just spend hours and hours and hours by myself working on something that, even if it was something that I really wanted or that I claimed that I really want. So now this proves to me that I really want it. I'm hungry for it. Okay, so if that's what it takes, if it takes hours and hours in this room by myself just cutting clips, shooting things, writing songs and doing whatever I need to do, that's what I'm going to do. So those are my 4 lessons that I'm sharing with you today. I hope that those are helpful. And yeah, if you haven't watched the other videos, I've linked them throughout this video. Check them out, and there's also links in the description. Check them out, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.